While the Islamic State and jihadist terror groups have faded from the headlines, my guest says that their influence persists around the globe. Katherine Zimmerman is a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, where she focuses on counterterrorism. Katherine, welcome to the program.
So good to be here.
So what is the current state of the Islamic State, and do they still pose a threat to the U.S. and U.S. interests?
The Islamic State has been degraded in its core leadership in Iraq and Syria. That's certainly evident from the numerous U.S. counterterrorism operations and, of course, through our Syrian and Iraqi partners. But the challenge that we face is the Islamic State is growing in Afghanistan and across Africa. It's alive and well.
So are they in a position right now to attack Americans? A centrally located planning, if you will, to attack Americans?
There's not evidence yet that they are doing that the way that we would think of a major terror attack from the Islamic State. But I think one of the key challenges with this organization is how it's inspired individuals to conduct attacks like the Pulse nightclub shooting in Orlando that killed upwards of 50 people, which would be a significant attack on American soil.
What areas of the globe are you most concerned about?
The places I'm most concerned about are the places where governance is poor and the security forces to fight the Islamic State are weak. That's Afghanistan, where we see the Taliban struggling to contain a growing Islamic State threat, and in the Sahel and Nigeria in particular, where the Islamic State is strongest and expanding rapidly.
You know, Islamic State leader al-Baghdadi was killed in an American raid in 2019. What do we know about the leadership of the organization since then?
The leadership has remained very much out of sight. A lot of that has to do with the counterterrorism pressure that it's been under by the U.S. and our counterterrorism partners. But the interesting thing is that with the Islamic State, it always has somebody waiting in the wings. So it's resilient to these strikes.
Do they still have popular support in the areas that they operate in?
They do and they don't. And that's the interesting thing about the Islamic State. There are people that do not buy the ideology and what the global jihad is selling. But when you look at the reasons why individuals fight with the Islamic State, it's because the Islamic State is offering them a way to contest either the Taliban in Afghanistan or the Nigerian army that has aggrieved their community. So it's that message that allows people to join them.
But what are the trends? Are they gaining in popularity? Is their popularity waning?
Their popularity is actually, I think, gaining in areas where they've been able to tap into local anti-government sentiments. The COVID pandemic has exacerbated that with government responses and this idea that resources aren't being properly expended. And frankly, the Taliban's crackdown in certain communities in Afghanistan has also created a lot of spaces and opportunities for the Islamic State to recruit.
And what about funding? Has that been going up? Are they struggling for funds?
With these organizations, they rely on donor funds and also on being able to tax the local populations. And that's why taking back terrain is so important. The United States and our partners have cracked down on the global financing network. There was just a new round of sanctions against financiers for the Islamic State. But the challenge we face is most of their money comes from checkpoints and from access to local resources, and we see them going after those resources, especially in Africa.
So let's turn to American strategy now. Now that we do not have boots on the ground, we're relying very heavily on over-the-horizon drone attacks on terror targets. How has that been going? What do you think of that strategy?
The strategy is the best we can do with the resources our leadership and they say our public are willing to put toward this problem set. And I think that's the challenge we see. The over-the-horizon posture is something the military can do. It assumes a lot of risks because we lose insight into what these groups are doing on the ground. It also doesn't solve the problem, and that's my key complaint. It means that we're going to be doing these drone strikes for however long it needs to happen.
So what are the options? Because we're not going to put boots on the ground. As you said, the public is not going to support that. You know, what do we do?
The options really are what we are doing, and I think that's the challenge. We're trying to fix this problem by bolstering border security, law enforcement, intelligence of our partners. The key issues, though, as I noted earlier, it's the governance gaps and the grievances that are driving recruitment on the ground for the Islamic State. And creating a more authoritarian, a more capable state could also drive recruitment for the Islamic State, making the problem worse. It's just this cycle that we're stuck in, where we are going to be relying on drone strikes and on local security forces to solve a fundamentally challenging, complex problem set.
And after, Iraq and Afghanistan, there was a huge shift towards China as the pacing threat, obviously Russia as the acute threat. Nobody's talking about counterterrorism right now.
No one is talking about counterterrorism. It's a major challenge, and it's one that doesn't go away, because even though we've degraded the leadership and we've reduced the threat in certain aspects from the Islamic State and from Al-Qaeda and other terror groups, it doesn't mean the threat is gone.
All right. Well, Katherine, I appreciate you coming into the program, and hopefully we won't have to talk about this again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any future Government Matters interviews.